Alright, so today we're taking a look at the Summer Report series. We're continuing to move things along as we take a look at the rebuilding Los Angeles Kings. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe, especially if you haven't already. Let's take a look at the Kings. So the Los Angeles Kings. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The Los Angeles Kings, who were one of the dynasties, they won 2 Stanley Cups within a 3-year span, and since then they have fallen down a cliff pretty hard, and they're trying to get back up, but they may not be able to get up too easily. So we're taking a look at the Kings, looking at the salary cap right now, and this is pretty interesting. They have almost $9 million in cap space. So when's the last time we've seen the Kings with some cap space? So the Los Angeles Kings, they have some salary cap space to work with, and I would argue that they have some contracts that they really need to get rid of. This could be a really big, monumental season for the Los Angeles Kings. It may not be for the right reasons that you may be hoping for the Los Angeles Kings. Ilya Kovalchuk still has 2 years left at $6.25 million. Dustin Brown making almost $6 million for the next 3 years. And you have Jeff Carter making $5.5 million for the next 3 years. So that's a lot of money in really, older players and not the best players at this point in their careers. They're all in the twilight of their career, and they're making a lot of money. Now, back in the day, Jeff Carter at $5.25 million was a steal. Dustin Brown at less than $6 million wasn't too bad of a contract. It was fair. Now, since then, salary caps have gone up, but they're pretty much depth of role players, and they're getting paid way too much. And especially, it doesn't help when Drew Doughty's making $11.5 million himself. He's making a lot of money. You have Tyler Toffoli, who is a pending unrestricted free agent next season, and you have Adrian Kempe, who is a restricted free agent right now. So he's playing with Mario Kempe, so that's kind of cool to see the Kempe brothers in the same organization. But, they need to figure out what they're going to do with Tyler Toffoli. I would not be surprised if Tyler Toffoli moved. Wouldn't be surprised if Toffoli moved. I wouldn't be surprised if Kovalchuk, Brown, or Carter moved as well. There were rumors that Jeff Carter was being moved. There were rumors he was going to the Arizona Coyotes in a trade for, I believe, Jason Demers. So make sure to check out that video where I talked about that. Basically explaining how the Kings had, some players on the table. We heard about Jonathan Quick possibly being on the move. So this could be a monumental year for them. They could move out some big names. Tyler Toffoli being a name that we've heard for the Los Angeles Kings. When you think of the Kings, you think of a guy like Toffoli, Jeff Carter, who could be moved, Jonathan Quick, who could be moved. Dare I even say, a guy like Drew Doughty. Could a guy like Drew Doughty get moved out of Los Angeles? So, these are things to take a look at for the Kings. They're going to be interesting this year. I don't know if they got better, but, let's take a look at the lineup to be sure. So, looking at that first line, that's tough. So you have Alex Iafallo, Anze Kopitar down the middle, and Dustin Brown on the right side. So right there, that's a pretty brutal line. Anze Kopitar, I think he's a great player. I think he's the guy, the one gleaming light on that line for the Los Angeles Kings. He's a really good player. Alex Iafallo, I think he's moving up in the lineup. He probably shouldn't be in the top 6. I think he's a good bottom 6 guy for any hockey team, maybe not in the top 6. You can see that's obviously where there's a hole here for the Los Angeles Kings. You have the second line, you have Ilya Kovalchuk, Jeff Carter down the middle, and Tyler Toffoli. They all had a pretty brutal season last year, so hopefully things turn around for this line. I would expect an up year from Toffoli. He has, he's up for a contract renewal, on July 1st, so hopefully things turn around for Tyler Toffoli in his contract year. Jeff Carter, I think they're going to try and explore a trade again. And Ilya Kovalchuk, I'm not sure any takers, but I wonder if there's a team that will be in on Kovalchuk. Looking at the third line, you have Adrian Kempe down the middle, Carl Grunstrom on the wing, as well as Austin Wagner. So I think, you know, we've seen Austin Wagner. He was a former Anaheim Duck. He's kind of changing sides here. And then you have Carl Grunstrom, who they picked up in the Jake Muzzin trade with the Maple Leafs. I think Grunstrom could end up being in the top 6 at some point here with the Los Angeles Kings. I think he's a better fit, honestly, than Alex Iafallo. Just give him that opportunity to play with Kopitar, and he could have a pretty good year. Then you have the fourth line. You have Kyle Clifford, Mike Amadio, and Trevor Lewis. I don't really hate that fourth line. I think that's a decent fourth line. It's not one of the better lines, but it's definitely not an awful fourth line compared to some of these other teams, especially in the Pacific Division where it seems a little weak. They have some decent depth in this team, and guys can definitely move around up and down, but they at least have that flexibility. And taking a look at defense, and this definitely concerns me a little bit. So you have Derek Forbort and Drew Doughty. So this is where a Drew Doughty trade almost makes no sense, because you look at this defense, and Doughty's the only gleaming light on the back end here for the Los Angeles Kings. Derek Forbort, he's just not a great defenseman. I think he's an okay defenseman. He works with Drew Doughty, but he couldn't really play. He's a mediocre defenseman, and you could really see the depth, the lack of depth on this Los Angeles Kings team basically starts with Derek Forbort. And then you have Alec Martinez, who he's really a shadow of his former self. He just hasn't been the player that that they want him to be, but maybe they could find a general manager that still finds faith in Martinez, and maybe he gets moved at some point. Matt Roy, or Matt Waugh, is in the top 4. I don't know too much about him, but maybe he's a youngster that has a breakout season here with the Los Angeles Kings. I think the Kings are due for a young defenseman to kind of break out. You also have Mikey Anderson as well, who is another one. He could be a guy like Matt Waugh, who he's able to get things going, and hopefully he becomes a pretty decent player, because the Kings need some young defensemen, and these are two guys that could be big in that. Then you have Paul LeDoux as well in the third pair. He's a pretty good player. He's a decent enough defenseman on the third pairing. I think that's fair. And like I said, the Kings actually have some decent depth here. This Mikey Anderson and Matt Waugh could be decent players. The Kings have some depth on the back end, more than I actually thought they did. Then you have Jonathan Quick and Jack Campbell as your goaltending. I think that's pretty good goaltending there for the Los Angeles Kings. And the crazy thing is, if they lost Jonathan Quick via trade, I don't think it would even be the worst thing in the world for the Los Angeles Kings. I think Jack Campbell is a pretty respectable goaltender in his own right now. He's not the player that when he was drafted early by the Dallas Stars all those years ago, but he's still a decent player. And, I think the Kings have a lot of decisions to make this season. It's going to be an interesting year, nonetheless, for the Los Angeles Kings. It's a year where I think they do indeed miss the playoffs. I think they're one of the teams I'm pretty much certain will miss the playoffs. I just don't think they added enough, and if anything, I think they're going to be subtracting. I think a guy like Jonathan Quick could be on the block. Drew Doughty could even be on the block. So these are just guys that I think could be available at this year's trade deadline. This could be an interesting trade deadline if the Kings are out of it, and we know they're out of it. They could be looking at, I think, more safe options. I think it's almost a given. I think Tyler Toffoli would end up leaving, or they want to keep a guy like Toffoli because he's maybe he just wants a new scenery and he doesn't want to resign. It makes it easy to trade a guy like Toffoli. You have the contracts of Kovalchuk, Brown, and Carter. I think they'd like to get at least one or two of those contracts within the next year or two. And then you have Jonathan Quick. Like I said, I think Quick could be a guy that ends up getting moved. He's a little bit older, but I think a team could be willing to take a waiver on him as a stopgap, and there may be a fit there. We heard that the Buffalo Sabres could even be interested in a guy like Jonathan Quick. Obviously, things fell through, but who knows? In a couple of years from now, or a couple months from now, we could be talking about Jonathan Quick once again being available. So let me know what you guys think of the Los Angeles Kings. Do you think I'm crazy for saying they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the NHL? Obviously, the parity in this league makes it difficult to determine, who's really going to be a bad team. But I'm pretty confident in this one. Not a betting man, but I could say with a decent amount of confidence that the Kings are going to have a pretty rough year this year. So thank you for watching here at Goal Line Hockey. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe, and comment down below what you think of the Los Angeles Kings. Am I crazy? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.